They say silence is golden. But the silence that hit me that night, right after I heard her words through the barely cracked bedroom door, was something else entirely. It was the sound of a man dying inside. My name is Daniel Bishop. I'm 41. I work as a lead electrician at a small commercial firm just outside of Charlotte. I build things quietly, methodically. I've always been more comfortable with wires than people, but I thought I had the people that mattered. I thought I had Lauren. We'd been married 11 years. She came into my life with 2 little kids from her previous relationship, Milo and Emma. He wasn't in the picture. I never asked much about him, because she didn't offer, said he was long gone, and the courts agreed. I stepped in like any decent man would, trying to love them like my own, and for 10 years I did. I made their lunches. I fixed Emma's favorite stuffed rabbit when it ripped at the seam. I taught Milo how to hold a wrench without stripping the bolt. I wiped tears and paid school fees and coached t-ball. I was dad. At least that's what I thought. Until 2 weeks ago. That night I came home from a double shift, too tired to announce myself, just grateful the house was quiet. I heard laughter from the bedroom. Lauren on speakerphone. Probably with one of her sisters. I wasn't eavesdropping, not at first. But something about the tone, sharp, smug, made me pause. Then came the sentence that cracked something deep inside me. He really thinks they're his. 10 years, diapers to braces, and the idiot still doesn't get it. I swear, sometimes I think I should get a trophy for the performance of the decade. Silence. Then laughter. Not just hers. Her friends too. And I swear to God, I couldn't move. I was stuck in place, my work boots still on, my back aching, my throat tight. I backed away slowly, like I'd seen something I wasn't supposed to. Like I wasn't supposed to exist anymore. The next morning I didn't say a word. Neither did she. She smiled like she always did, handed me coffee, kissed me goodbye, told me to take it easy today. It was mechanical. And now, knowing what I knew, so was my smile. But inside something had started ticking. I didn't confront her. That's not how I'm built. I'm not a yeller. I don't throw things. I analyze, I fix. So I started fixing. First thing I did was get a separate bank account. Quietly, just mine. I rerouted my direct deposit from the company. A quick call to payroll and it was done by the next pay cycle. She didn't even notice. Then I checked the custody paperwork from back when we got married. I'd never formally adopted the kids. Lauren insisted it wasn't necessary. Your dad, she said back then, brushing it off. Paper won't change that. At the time I thought it was sweet. Now, I knew better. Without formal adoption I had no legal tie. No rights, no say, and the way she was laughing, she knew that. She'd always known. I called my old friend Eric, a divorce attorney who owed me a favor. I'd rewired his beach house for half the usual rate 2 years back. I didn't give him details, just said I needed to understand what I could and couldn't do yet. He asked if I was okay. I lied. That weekend, I took Milo fishing. Just us. We do that once a month. It's our thing. He's 13 now. Voice cracking, sneakers always dirty. Eyes glued to his phone. But when we're out by the lake, he loosens up. He even smiled that day when I let him skip the bait prep and handed him a soda instead. He doesn't know. Neither of them do. And whatever Lauren has said or done behind my back, I wasn't about to drop a grenade into their world. Not yet. But I needed to know what else she was hiding. If that comment was just cruelty, or the tip of something deeper. I placed a small recording device under the living room couch. One of those cheap, but effective ones with voice activation. I'm not proud of it, but I needed proof. Not just for court, if it came to that, for my own sanity. 3 days later, I got what I needed. Tuesday night I was in the garage fixing the sink, which really meant letting the recorder sync with my laptop in secret. What I heard made my stomach turn. Lauren. Honestly, I thought I'd feel guilty. But I don't. He's just boring, predictable, useful, and Michael never would have stayed this long. At least with Dan, I got a house, security and no questions. Her friend. So what's the plan now? Lauren. Divorce in a year or 2. Once the market's high and the mortgage is mostly paid off, he won't even see it coming. It wasn't the betrayal that hurt most. It was how casual she sounded. Like I was a paycheck with a heartbeat. Like a vending machine that occasionally fixed the gutters. And Michael. That name stuck. I hadn't heard it before, but I would. Because the next night, I followed her. She said she was going to book club. That's what she always says on Wednesdays. But I tailed her in my work truck, staying back 3 car lengths. She pulled into a neighborhood 2 exits over, parked. Didn't even check the mirror. He opened the door, mid-30s, smug posture, muscular arms. The kind of guy who wears tank tops to show off forearm tattoos. He kissed her before she even stepped inside. They'd been seeing each other for a while, that much was clear. I didn't take pictures, not yet. I just drove home, sat in the garage and let the weight settle. 11 years. 11 years of birthday cakes, carpool lanes, broken dishwashers, fever nights and quiet dinners. And she was playing a long con. But she made one mistake. She thought I was blind. She had no idea I was planning to bury her, not with shouting but with silence and evidence. Next stop, paternity test. The hardest part wasn't getting the DNA. It was pretending everything was normal. I still got up early to make breakfast. Bacon for Milo, fruit for Emma. I still kissed Lauren on the cheek when I left. And I still picked up groceries like a good husband. But every move I made now had weight. And it's strange how quickly love can turn into performance once you realize you've been cast as the fool. The paternity test kit came in a plain white envelope. I took samples from Milo and Emma when they were asleep. Swabs, quick and careful. I'd seen Lauren do it once when they had strep and the memory stuck. It was easier than I expected. Painfully so. The results came a week later. Both kids, 0% biological relation. I sat with that number for a long time. 0. Nothing. A decade of bedtime stories, scraped knees and Christmas mornings, and in the eyes of science I was no one. But I knew better. I knew what it took to raise a child. Still, facts mattered now, especially for what I was planning. Lauren had made her move years ago. Her whole life with me had been a setup, emotional fraud wrapped in a smile. But if she thought I'd just walk away quietly, she didn't know me at all. I started collecting everything. Bank records showing all deposits into our joint account, especially my bonuses. Home improvement receipts. Thousands in renovations I did myself to raise the home's value. Voice recordings, multiple now, including one where she joked about leveraging the house sale to finance her real life. I even backed up her texts. I borrowed Emma's tablet one evening, told her I was installing a game, synced Lauren's messages using her iCloud credentials, which, like everything else, she'd left lazy and predictable. What I found turned my stomach. Dozens of messages to Michael. Dan's clueless. Honestly, he's like a golden retriever. Loyal, dumb, and always wagging. Another deposit hit. He doesn't even ask what I do with the money. We'll wait until the house appraises higher, then sell and split. He's too boring to notice. Split? Not legally. The house was in my name. She'd begged me to add her years ago, but I never did. Partly out of laziness, partly because we bought it before the wedding, and I never saw the point. Turns out that one detail would become my lifeline. But the kicker came from her messages to her sister. If he finds out, I'll just flip it on him. Cry, say he yelled. Maybe even say he hit me once. No proof. But who's gonna doubt a woman? I stared at that sentence for 10 minutes. Not moving, not breathing. And that's when something inside me shifted. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was war. Eric, the lawyer friend, met me the next day at a diner. I laid it all out, the recordings, the texts, the paternity test, the timeline. He didn't say much, just sipped his coffee and flipped through the file. Then he looked at me and said, "If you're ready to press the button, I'll start the paperwork tonight." "I'm ready," I said. "But we don't file yet. Not until I've moved a few things around." "What kind of things?" "Things she doesn't know I still own. See, I never told Lauren about my land. My parents left me 3 acres near Asheville. Undeveloped, quiet. I'd kept it in a trust, out of sight. Paid taxes. Kept it clean but never mentioned it. She thought we had just the house and my paycheck. But I took a loan against it, just enough to rent a place quietly under a friend's name and retain Eric's firm at full capacity. I also contacted a private investigator. Not just to watch her, but to find out who Michael really was. Because if she was funneling money to him, I needed proof. The PI came back fast. Michael had a record. Small-time fraud, fake companies, unpaid loans. But more interesting, his current business was registered to a P.O. box, paid for by Lauren. She'd been helping him start a consulting firm, one that had no clients, no revenue, but plenty of investments. For me, it was almost funny. She called me boring, predictable. Meanwhile, she had no idea I'd already set up the dominoes. All I had to do now was flick the first one and watch her little empire fall apart. But she moved first. One Friday evening I came home to find her on the porch, eyes red, voice shaking. "We need to talk," she said. I almost smiled. She had no idea I knew. "I don't feel loved anymore," she started. "You're distant, cold. And I don't know what's changed, but I think we need to take space." This was her setup. Get me to move out. Paint me as the emotionally absent husband. Maybe even imply abuse. I looked at her, quiet, calm, and I said, "You're right." She blinked. I'd never agreed so easily before. She didn't know that I'd already signed a 6-month lease under a friend's name, utilities paid in advance. I grabbed a duffel bag that was already packed in the garage, and I left. But I didn't go far, because I had one last piece to plant before filing the bombshell paperwork. 2 days later, I dropped off a flash drive at Eric's office. Inside, voice recordings, text messages, paternity results, property deeds, Lauren's transfers to Michael, and a final piece, a video from the PI. Lauren and Michael kissing outside his office, really just a rundown Airbnb used for their weekday meetups. Eric smiled like a man holding a loaded gun. "It's going to get ugly," he said. "I'm counting on it." Because what Lauren didn't know was this. The moment she tried to spin her false abuse story, I'd already filed a preemptive legal protection claim, citing recorded threats of a false allegation, and requesting legal mediation to prevent slander. I wasn't running from her lies. I was turning them into evidence. And now, it was time to let the world in a courtroom see what she really was. 3 weeks passed after I moved out. Lauren played it exactly how I expected. She told friends I abandoned the family, that I'd become detached and controlling. She even went as far as to suggest subtly that I might have gotten physical. Not directly, but in that manipulative, passive way that poisons people against you without ever needing proof. "You know how quiet he gets," she said to my cousin's wife at a barbecue I didn't attend. "Sometimes that quiet, it's not so safe." I got that line from a mutual friend who still respected me enough to text, "Heads up, she's laying the groundwork." But she had no idea what I was laying. The moment she made those insinuations, the second she suggested fear, my lawyer filed for a protective defamation injunction. We had proof. Her own texts about faking abuse. Audio, time-stamped, watermarked, legal gold. And that wasn't all. Remember the house? Legally she had no claim. It was mine before the marriage. No co-signature. No marital contributions from her side. In fact, I could prove I paid all the mortgage and renovations. But I didn't want to just kick her out. No, that would be too merciful. Instead, I contacted a real estate agent I trusted. We listed the house quietly, with a delayed public posting date. She didn't even notice the appraisal team come by. I told her they were from the insurance company. She barely looked up from her phone. I also notified the HOA and property manager. All documents and notices would now come to my office, not the house. I watched her from a distance through the PI's updates. She was still seeing Michael, still funding his startup, still assuming I was licking my wounds in some sad bachelor apartment. She had no idea I'd bought a second property using my parents' land as collateral, a modest duplex that I would soon lease to someone very, very specific. But we'll get to that. Meanwhile, I needed one final element to lock everything in place. Witness testimony. You see, Lauren's sister, the one she texted about faking abuse, was a wild card. Not malicious, just nervous. The kind of person who sides with whoever's louder. For years, she parroted whatever Lauren told her. But she had a son. A sweet kid. My godson, actually. And she loved him fiercely. So when I sent her a letter, not a threat, not even a legal notice, just a personal, handwritten note, and included a copy of Lauren's text where she joked about using fake abuse if things got messy, I knew she'd fold. She called me 2 days later. "Dan, I'm sorry, I didn't know she was serious." "She was," I said, "and I don't need you to lie. I just need you to tell the truth. In court. Under oath." There was a long pause. "Then I will." That was the moment I knew Lauren was done. Court date was set. We filed for a no-fault divorce, but attached our own documentation under a motion to contest asset manipulation and emotional fraud, citing intentional concealment of paternity, financial misuse of marital assets, and slander. Lauren was served at Michael's place. The PI made sure to catch a picture. Her opening the door in a robe, Michael behind her in boxers. She called me that night. Screaming, crying, swearing, "You're ruining everything. You think you can just erase 10 years? I didn't raise my voice. You erased it, I said. The moment you called me an idiot for loving your kids. Then I hung up. The kids. That part hurt the most. Emma had just turned 10. Milo was 13, and neither of them knew any of this. Legally, they weren't mine. But emotionally, they were everything. Still, I knew Lauren would twist things, paint me as cold. So I made a move she didn't expect. I filed for guardianship access, not custody, since I wasn't the father, but visitation based on de facto parenting. In our state, 10 years of documented parenting, school pickups, medical decisions, financial support, can be argued as parental standing. It was a long shot, but I had time and documentation. Every birthday photo, every doctor's bill, every PTA email, even videos like the one where Milo called me dad during his science fair win, hugging me so tight I could barely breathe. Eric was stunned. You might actually get this, he said. Not for me, I replied. For them, because no matter what Lauren had done, the kids didn't ask for this. They deserved to know I didn't just walk away. The hearing was brutal. Lauren tried to play the victim, tearful, fragile, but the judge had already reviewed the materials. When she accused me of emotional intimidation, we played the tape, her joking about faking abuse, her laughing about bleeding me dry. She turned pale. Michael didn't even show up. And then her sister testified. She told me she'd pretend he hit her if things went south. I didn't believe her at the time. I didn't want to. That was the nail in the coffin. The judge ruled. Divorce granted, with no alimony. Hayes remained mine, with Lauren ordered to vacate in 30 days. No claims to my pension or land holdings. Emergency hearing set for visitation rights pending family court review. But the best part? The judge referred the case for civil fraud investigation, specifically regarding Lauren's funneling of joint funds to Michael under false pretenses. If charges stuck, she'd be paying me, and possibly looking at jail time. Outside the courthouse she tried to talk. I walked past her. Calm, silent, untouchable. But I wasn't done. Because a week later, Michael got an eviction notice for the very Airbnb he was using as his fake office. Why? Because the duplex I bought. That was the property. And I'd just decided his lease wouldn't be renewed. You can imagine his face. I used to think revenge was loud. Yelling, slammed doors, explosions. But it turns out, real revenge is the sound of a court clerk handing you a stamped order while your ex-wife's attorney stares at the floor. It's the soft buzz of a phone vibrating with a notification that reads, "Visitation rights granted. Interim schedule approved." It's watching your betrayer realize they've lost not just the case but the control. Lauren had 30 days to move out of the house. She used every one of them to make things worse. She called the kids crying, saying I was tearing the family apart. She went to our mutual friends and spun wild stories that I hired hackers, that I was dangerous now, that I'd gone off the deep end. But lies, when confronted with evidence, collapse fast. People started backing away from her. One friend sent me a screenshot of Lauren texting, "He'll beg to take me back once I'm gone, and the house feels empty." Spoiler. I didn't. In fact, the first thing I did when I got the house back, changed every lock, removed every trace of her, every framed photo, every memory she weaponized, every fake smile in glass. I turned what was once her stage into my silence. The kids were another story. Emma was confused, distant. Milo wouldn't even look at me at first. Lauren had poisoned them, told them I left because I didn't love them anymore. So I did something risky. I invited Milo to coffee. Just us. He didn't want to come, but he did. We sat in a quiet booth, same diner I used to take him after his baseball games. I didn't cry. I didn't plead. I just handed him a folder. Inside, photos of us over 10 years, from his first lost tooth to his first real bike. A copy of the visitation ruling. A typed letter, 1 page, no blame, just the truth. He didn't say anything for 5 straight minutes. Then quietly, he asked, "So you never stopped being my dad?" I nodded, and he nodded back slowly, like his whole world was shifting 1 click at a time. We didn't hug, but we didn't need to. That silence was louder than any apology. Meanwhile, Lauren was unraveling. The civil investigation into financial fraud was moving faster than expected. Turns out Michael had used our money, funneled through joint accounts, to fake capital for a failed loan application. He'd listed Lauren as a co-signer without her even realizing it. Or maybe she knew. Didn't matter. The paperwork trail showed she authorized the funds. The forged parts were Michael's, but the money came from her. Her lawyer tried to cut a deal. They wanted me to sign a non-prosecution agreement in exchange for Lauren withdrawing all challenges to visitation and future child-related claims. I said no. I didn't want peace. I wanted truth. Because for once in my life I wasn't the loyal dog begging for scraps of affection. I was the one writing the rules. A final court date was scheduled. This one wasn't about the divorce, that was done. This was about fraud, perjury, and parental standing. Lauren walked in wearing gray. Not black gray. Like even she wasn't sure what part to play anymore. Her voice was lower now. No tears. No false accusations. Just a defeated quiet. The judge reviewed everything again. He looked at me, then at her, then at the kids' file. And then he said the one thing I didn't expect. In the interest of the children's stability and based on documented parental conduct, this court grants Mercer Bishop limited parental standing and a structured escalating visitation schedule, with potential for joint guardianship, pending review after 6 months. I couldn't breathe for a second. Lauren didn't even fight it. She just nodded barely. Michael? Gone. No show again. A warrant had been issued in a separate fraud case. I doubt she'd even heard from him since. The empire she built on secrets? Ashes. Back at the house, I framed the court order. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Not of revenge, but of resilience. I didn't scream, I didn't threaten, I didn't lay a hand on anyone. I used facts, and silence, and time. The very things she used to dismiss me. A few days later, I picked up Emma for our first weekend together. She brought her stuffed rabbit, the same one I'd sewn up years ago. She looked up at me and said, "Can you fix his ear again?" I nodded. And in that moment I wasn't the man who'd been betrayed. I was just her dad. But there was one final message to deliver. For Lauren. I boxed up a few things she left behind. Perfume, books, an old necklace, and had them dropped off at her new place. Inside I included a note. You once said I'd never see it coming. Turns out neither did you. 2. I didn't expect closure to feel this quiet. There was no applause, no cinematic music, just the ticking of my living room clock, the soft hum of the fridge, and the weightless air of finally being free. The court order came in that morning. Officially certified. Guardianship status granted, 6-month review waived due to overwhelming evidence of parenting consistency and Lauren's deteriorating credibility. In short, I was now legally their dad. Not just in spirit. Not just in memory. On paper. In the eyes of the law. Permanently. Emma came over that weekend again. This time she brought her favorite board game. Ilo tagged along. No request. No push. Just a simple, "Can I stay too?" We ate pizza on the floor. Watched some old cartoons. I fixed Emma's stuffed rabbit's ear with stronger thread this time. The kind that doesn't fray easily. When Milo went to bed, he stopped at the hallway and said, "I told Mom I'm not calling Michael my stepdad." I looked at him. "Why?" He shrugged. Then looked at me. "'Cause you're not a step anything. You're just my dad." That night I slept better than I had in a decade. Lauren, meanwhile, was unraveling in real time. Michael had fled the state. Civil fraud charges were filed. She was now on the hook for 6 financial liabilities, including misrepresentation on a joint account she forged my signature for, something we uncovered after the divorce was finalized. Her lawyer dropped her. She tried to represent herself at a civil hearing and broke down crying mid-testimony, claimed she was manipulated, misunderstood, and never meant to hurt anyone. But the judge wasn't moved. He imposed restitution orders, repayment to me for over $47,000 in diverted marital funds. Failure to pay would result in garnishment and credit penalties. She left court red-faced and silent. But she looked back once, just once, as I stood outside with the kids. She didn't wave. Neither did I. And here's the part that really seals it. The duplex I bought, the one Michael had been using as his fake office, I didn't sell. I turned it into a small rental and leased it to a single mother and her teenage son who were rebuilding after domestic abuse. I lowered the rent by half. Quietly. No fanfare. I told her I just liked helping people with second chances. Because I know what it's like to lose everything that wasn't real, and build something better from the truth. I never went online to rant. I didn't post screenshots. I didn't try to expose Lauren in front of everyone. Because that's not real revenge. Real revenge, winning custody without ever being named the father. Keeping the house while your ex tries to start over in a studio apartment. Watching the children you raised choose you freely without manipulation, without pressure. Living a life so full, so stable, and so undeniably honest that no one questions who the real parent is. There's one memory that still comes back to me now and then. It's from years ago. Emma was 6. Milo had scraped his knee riding too fast down our driveway. Lauren was inside on the phone, laughing. I was on the pavement, bandaging his knee with Spider-Man tape while Emma clutched my arm crying, scared for her brother. That moment, small, maybe even forgettable to anyone else, was when I became their father. Not in blood, but in every way that matters. Lauren once mocked me as the ultimate idiot for raising someone else's kids. But here's what you'll never understand. You don't raise children for the credit. You raise them because they need it. Because when you're their real parent, in the quiet moments, in the hard ones, in the invisible work, they know. And one day they grow up. And they choose. Now, I take them to school every Monday and Thursday. We get ice cream on Fridays. Emma's learning guitar. Milo's on the robotics team. And me, I'm living in the same house she once mocked me in. Only now it's mine in every way. I don't need to shout. I don't need revenge porn or viral posts or gossip. Because in the end, I didn't just win. I became untouchable. If you made it to the end of this story, thank you for listening. Sometimes the best revenge isn't rage, it's rebuilding in silence. Would you have done what I did? Or walked away completely?